Hi everyone, I welcome you all to the day 6 of SQL series. In today's session, we will be learning about SQL functions and clause. Firstly, we will begin with introduction to SQL functions. Post that, we will tell you the different types of functions like basic function, string function, case function, if function, and user defined function. Then later on, we will be learning about different clauses like order, group, and having clause. This is the agenda of the video.
So before moving on with the session, please subscribe to our channel.
And also hit the bell icon for the upcoming updates from our channel. And also, if you enjoy our content, you can leave a like.
Hey guys, welcome back to this SQL tutorial series. Let's start with the min function. The min function gives the smallest value in a column. Let's look at the syntax. First we give in the select keyword, then we give the min function, and inside the parenthesis, we specify the name of that column from which we are supposed to find the minimum value. So I want to extract the age of the youngest employee of the company. So this would be the command for that. Select, and then I'll use the min function and then pass in the column, which would be EH. I'll use the from keyword and then given the name of the table, which would be employee. So the total command is select minimum of EH from employee. I'll hit execute. So we see that the minimum age in the table is 21. Similarly, if I wanted to extract the salary of that employee who would get the least salary, so the command would be select min, and instead of EH, it would be eSalary from employee. So the salary of the employee who earns the least is $73,000. Then we have the max function. The max function gives the largest value in a column. Here again we give in the select keyword, following which we give the max function, and inside the function we specify the name of the column from which we're supposed to get the maximum value. Now I want to extract the maximum age and maximum salary from this table. So this would be the command for that. Select, and I will start off by extracting the maximum age. Inside the max function I will pass in the column which is E of age, and then I'll use the from keyword and then given the name of the table which is employee. So the maximum age of an employee is 45. Similarly, I want to find out the maximum salary. So that would be E salary from employee. Execute. So the maximum salary is $159,000. Then there's a count function. So the count function returns the number of rows that matches specified criteria. That is, if we wanted to find out the number of male and female employees in a company, then we can use the count function. Let's look at the syntax. So after the select keyword, you will use the count function and given an asterisk inside the parenthesis. Then you will give the table name, and finally you will use the where clause to give the condition. So let's use this count function to get the count of number of male and female employees. So I'll start off by getting the count of number of male employees. So select, I will use the count function, and inside the count function I will pass in the asterisk symbol. After which I'll use the from keyword and then given the name of the table which would be employee. Then using the where clause I will give in the condition. So I'd want the count of all of the male employees. So E of gender should be equal to male. Let me see what do we get. So there are 4 male employees in total. Similarly, if I wanted to get the count of all the female employees, the command would be select count of star from employee where E gender equals female. Right, so this would be the only difference. I'll hit execute. So I get 2. So there are 2 female employees in the entire organization. Then we have the sum function. So the sum function would give you the total sum of a numeric column, and this is the syntax. So here similarly we will give in the sum function after the select keyword and give the column name inside the parenthesis. So I want to get the total sum of salaries of all of the employees, right? So the sum of salaries of all of the employees. Select, and then I'll use the sum function and then I'll pass in the column which would be E salary from the name of the table which is employee. So the total salary of all of the employees included is $644,000 per annum. And finally we have the average function. So the average function gives us the average value of a numeric column, and the syntax is same as the rest. So we'll give in the average function after the select keyword and give the column name inside the parenthesis. So this time I do want to get the average age of all of the employees. So select, and then I will use the avg function and then given the column which would be age from the name of the table, which is employee. So the average age of all of the employees is 30. So guys, these were some of the aggregate functions in SQL. So first we have the ltrim function, which helps in removing the blank spaces on the left side of the character expression. So let's implement this function in SQL Server. So let me first create a string with some blank spaces on the left side. So I'll type select, and then I will give some blank spaces on the left side. Now let me pass in a string, and I'll name the string to be Sparta. I'll hit execute. Right. So this is the string which has some leading spaces on the left side. Now if I want to remove all of these blank spaces on the left side, all I need to do is use the ltrim function. So I will type select ltrim, and inside this I will pass in the string with the leading spaces. So I'll copy this and I will paste it over here. Now let me execute both of this simultaneously, right? So this is the string with the leading spaces, and when we use the ltrim function, all of those blank spaces on the left side were removed. Then we have the lower function, which basically converts all the characters to the lower case. So let's look at an example. This time, let me actually print a string which has all the characters in capitals. So this is Sparta. So here we see that all of the characters in the string are in capitals. I'll execute this, and this is what we get. Now if I want to convert all of the characters into lowercase, I can just use a lower function. So I will type select lower and then pass in the string inside the function. I'll copy the string, I will paste it inside this, I'll hit execute. So this is the string where all the characters were in capitals, and after using the lower function, this string where all the characters were in capitals have been turned to lowercase. Similarly, we have the upper function, which basically converts all the characters to uppercase. So this time I will take in a string which has all the characters in lowercase. So select, I will type hello world. Let me print this, right? So here we see that initially all of the characters are in lowercase. Now after this, I will type select upper and then pass in the string inside the function. I'll copy this, I will paste it over here, I'll hit execute. So this was our initial string, and after using the upper function, we have converted the string into capital case. After that, we have the reverse function, which basically reverses all the characters in the string. So let's implement this too. So let me take in a random string again, select, and I will type I love ice cream. I'll hit execute. So this is what we get initially. Now after this, I will use the reverse function. Select, reverse, and I will pass in the string inside the reverse function. I'll copy it and I will paste it inside this function over here. Now let me execute. So this is the initial string, and after using the reverse function, we have reversed all of the characters in the string, right? So you see that this is the starting and this is the ending over here. And after reversing it, we get this final string. And finally, we have the substring function, which gives us a substring or part of the string from the original string. Now let me give in the original string first. So I will type select, and then the string would be this is Sparta. Now let's say I would want this substring Sparta from this entire string. So this is where we can use the substring function. So I will type select substring. Now the substring function takes in 3 parameters. First is the original string. So I will copy the original string and I will pass it into this as the first parameter. Now after that, I need to give in the index value from where the substring starts. So this is the first character of the substring which I want. So the index value would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So I'll type 9 over here. And then the third parameter would be the length of the substring. So the length of the substring is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I will pass in 6 over here. Now let me execute all of these and let's see what do we get. So this is the original string, this is Sparta, And after using the substring function, we have extracted only this part from the entire string. So these were some of the string functions in SQL. So the SQL case statement helps us in multi-way decision making. So let's take this example to understand case statement properly. Let's say there are 10 buttons starting from 1 to 10. So if the person selects 1, then he wants tea. If he selects 2, then he wants to order coffee. Similarly, if he selects 3, then he wants milk. And for any other case, the person will order water. So this is basically how the case statement works. So the case statement goes through conditions and returns a value when the first condition is met. And this is the syntax for the case statement. So we'll type in case, following which we'll give the when keyword and give the first condition. After that, we'll type then and specify what will happen if this condition is satisfied. And we'll do the same for the rest of the conditions. After that, we'll type else and state what will happen if none of the above conditions are satisfied. Finally, we'll give the end keyword. So now let's go to SQL Server and start working with the case statement. So I'll check some conditions using the case statement. So first I'll check if 10 is greater than 20, and if this evaluates to true, I'll just print 10 is greater than 20. After that, I'll check if 10 is less than 20, and if this condition evaluates to true, I'll print 10 is less than 20. And if none of these two conditions evaluate to true, I'll just print 10 is equal to 20. So let me write the syntax for that. Select, I'll give the case statement, then type when and give the first condition, which would be 10 is greater than 20. I'll type then and state what will happen if this condition is evaluated to true. So I'll just print 10 is greater than 20. Then I'll type when and then state the second condition, which would be 10 is less than 20. I'll type then, and if this condition evaluates to true, I have to print 10 is less than 20. And if none of these conditions evaluate to true, I'll type else and just state 10 is equal to 20. And I'll finish off the case statement with the end keyword. So let me hit execute. So you get the result, 10 is less than 20. So we get this result because the first condition has been evaluated to false, because obviously 10 is not greater than 20. And since 10 is less than 20, this has been evaluated to true, and we print 10 is less than 20. So now let's also implement this case statement on top of our employee table. So before we do that, let us actually have a glance at the employee table. So I'll type select star from employee. Right, so this is our employee table. Now using the case statement, I would want to add a new column, grade, which would be dependent on the salary column. So if the salary is less than $90,000, the grade would be C. If the salary is between $90,000 and $120,000, the grade would be B. And if the salary is greater than $120,000, the grade would be A. So let me write the syntax for that. So I'll type select, and I want all of the columns from the employee table. I'll type start, and I'll add a new column grade, and I'll be getting the values in this column with the help of the case statement. So I'll type case and then type the when keyword and give the first condition. So the first condition would be E salary is less than $90,000. And if this evaluates to true, the grade would be C. I'll type when and say the second condition. So the second condition would be if E salary is less than $120,000. So here, if the first condition is evaluated to false, then it would mean that the salary is greater than $90,000. And after that, we'll check if the salary is between $90,000 and $120,000. And if that evaluates to true, the grade would be B. And if none of these conditions evaluate to true, that would mean the salary is greater than $120,000. So I'll type else, and then the grade which I want is A. And I'll finish off this case statement with the end keyword. And I want all of this from the employee table. So I'll type from and then give the name of the table, which would be employee. I'll type go. I'll select all of this and I'll hit execute. Right, so we see that this new column grade has been added to the employee table. And this grade column is dependent on the salary column. So here we see that the salary is between $90,000 and $120,000. That is why the grade is B. Here the salary is less than $90,000, the grade is C, and over here the salary is greater than $120,000, that is why the grade is A. So this is how we can work with a case statement in SQL Server. So the if function is an alternative to the case expression. This if function takes in a Boolean expression as the first parameter and returns the true value if the Boolean expression is evaluated to true. Similarly, returns the false value if the Boolean expression is evaluated to false. For example, let's say in the Boolean expression we are checking if the marks scored by a student are greater than 50, and if it evaluates to true, we'll return pass, and if the Boolean expression evaluates to false, we'll return fail. So this is how the if function works. Now let's implement this if function in SQL Server. So using the if function, I'd want to check if 10 is greater than 20. And if it evaluates to true, I'll print 10 is greater than 20. On the other hand, if it evaluates to false, I'll print 10 is less than 20. So let me write the syntax for that. I'll type select. After that, I'll use the if function and pass in the first parameter, which is the Boolean expression. So 10 is greater than 20. And if it evaluates to true, I would want to print 10 is greater than 20. On the other hand, if it evaluates to false, I would want to print 10 is less than 20. I'll hit execute. Right, so what we get is 10 is less than 20. So we get this result because this Boolean expression has been evaluated to false and it is redirected over here and we get the false result, which is 10 is less than 20. Now I'll go ahead and also implement this if function on top of the employee table. So before I do that, let me actually have a glance at the employee table first. So I will type select star from employee. So we have our employee table right in front of us. Now using the if function, I'd want to add a new column employee generation, and that new column would be dependent on this age column. So if the age of the employee is greater than 30, then the new column would have a value old employee.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides online SQL training in partnership with Microsoft. The course link of which is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
Similarly, if the age of the employee is less than 30, then the value in the new column would be young employee. So let me write the syntax for this. I will type select and list down all of the columns which I want from the employee table. So I want the employee ID column, employee name column, employee age column. Now after this, I will use the if function to add the new column. So I'll give the first parameter, which would be the Boolean expression. So here I will check if E of age is greater than 30. And if the age is greater than 30, I would want the value to be old employee. On the other hand, if the age is less than 30, I would want the value to be young employee. Now I will name this new column as employee generation. So let me just type the name of the column employee generation over here. And I would want all of this from the table employee. Now I'll select this, I'll hit execute. Right, so we see that a new column has been added to this and the name of this column is employee generation. So here, if you have a glance at this age value, it is 45 and the corresponding value in employee generation is old employee. Similarly here it is 21 and since the value is less than 30, we get young employee. And these two, it is 25 and 30. And since these two values are also not greater than 30, we have young employee over here. And Matt, whose age is 33, we have the value old employee. And we have Jeff, whose age is 27, he's a young employee too. So this is how we can work with the if function in SQL. So these are the two types of user-defined functions in SQL. We have scalar-valued functions and table-valued functions. We'll start with the scalar-valued functions. So as the name states, a scalar-valued function always returns a scalar value. So a scalar value could be int, varchar, date, and so on. And this is the syntax for a scalar valued function. So we'll type create function and then we'll give the function name. And inside the parenthesis, we'll specify the names of the parameters and their data types. And since the function is going to return a value, we'll type the returns keyword and specify the type of data which will be returned. After that, we'll type as begin and then give the function body and then return the final scalar value. Finally, we'll use the end keyword to end the function. So let's go to SQL Server and create our first scalar valued function. So I'm going to create a scalar valued function which will take one integer value add 5 more to the original value and return the updated value. So let me type the syntax for that. Create function, and then I'll give the function name, which would be add 5. And inside the parenthesis, I'll pass the first parameter. So I'll name the parameter to be num, and this would be of integer type. After that, I'll type the returns keyword, and then the type of data which we'll be returning is also of integer type. After that, I'll type as begin, and since all we have to do is add 5 more to the original value, so I'll not write anything inside this. So I'll directly type the return keyword, and inside this return keyword, I will add 5 more to the parameter value. So that would be @num plus 5. So what we are basically doing over here is the value which is sent as parameter inside this function, will take it and add 5 more to that value and then return it. And finally, I'll type the n keyword to end this function. So let me hit execute. Right, so we have successfully created this add 5 function. Now let me go ahead and call this function. So to call the function, I'll type select, and then I'll have to type dbo dot, and then I'd have to give the function name, which is add 5. Now let's say I'll pass in the number 10. I'll select this, I'll hit execute. Right, so we see that this function works properly. So I've sent 10 and the result which we've got is 15. Similarly, let me send 100 as the parameter. Now I'll select, I'll hit execute. Right, so the value which is returned is 105. So this is how we can create a scalar valued function. Then we have table valued functions. So these table valued functions return a table instead of a scalar. And this is the syntax for a table valued function. So here the return type is table. So after the returns keyword, we'll type in table because we are supposed to return a table. After that, we'll give the keywords as return and then give in the select statement. Now you need to keep in mind that there are no begin and end keywords for the table valued function. So let's go to SQL Server and create our first table valued function. Now I'll be creating a function which would help me to individually extract the male employees and the female employees from the employee table. So before I do that, let me actually have a glance at the employee table first. So I'll type select star from employee. Right, so we have this employee table right in front of us. Now let me go ahead and create the command. So again, I'll type create function, and then I'll give the name of the function, which would be select gender. Now inside the parenthesis, I will pass in the parameter. So I'll name the parameter to be gender, and this would be of varchar type. So as varchar, and the length would be 20. After that, I'll give the returns keyword, and since this is a table valued function, the return type would be table. So I'll type as return and then give in parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis I will give my select statement. So the select statement would go something like this: select star from employee where gender is equal to @gender. So this gender is basically the gender column from the employee table, and this @gender is the parameter which we'll be passing inside this function. So let's say if the user passes the value male inside this function, then we'll be extracting all of the records where the gender value is male. Similarly, if the user passes the value female inside this, then we'll be extracting all of the female employees from this table. So let me select this, let me hit execute. Right, so we have also created this select gender function. So now using this function, let me extract all of the male employees from the employee table. So to do that, the syntax would be a bit different. Select star from, and then I'll type dbo dot and then give the name of the function, which would be select gender, and inside the parenthesis I will pass in the value, and since I want all of the male employees, I'll type male over here. Right, so I'm typing select star from this because this will basically return a table, and from the table which is returned, I would want all of the records. So let me select this, I'll hit execute. Right, so we have successfully extracted all of the male employees from the employee table. Similarly, if I'd have to extract all of the female employees, the syntax would be similar. So I'll type select star from, and then I'll type dbo dot select gender, and then I will pass in the value female. I will select this, I'll hit execute. So again, we have successfully extracted the female employees from the employee table. So this is how we can create table valued functions in SQL. We'll start with the order by clause. So order by is used to sort the data in ascending or descending order. And by default, order by sorts the records in ascending order. So let's have a look at the syntax. We'll start with the select keyword and then given the column list. Then we'll use the from keyword and give the table name. Following which we'll type the keywords order, by, and give the columns with respect to which you want to sort the data. And finally, we'll state whether the ordering should be in ascending or descending. And I've already told you guys that by default, the sorting is done in ascending order. And if you want the sorting to be done in descending order, we will use the DESC keyword. So I want to sort the table with respect to the salary column in ascending order. So this would be the command for that. Select star from, the name of the table is employee, after which I will use the keywords order by, and then given the name of the column, which would be salary. And since I want it with respect to ascending order, so I don't need to add anything else. So let me hit execute. Right. So we have successfully sorted this table in ascending order, right? So Julia has the lowest salary and Matt over here has the highest salary. So this is an ascending order, 73,000, 80,000, 95,000 and goes on till 159,000. Now let's say I want to sort this table in descending order of the salary. So for that, all I need to do is add in the keyword DESC. Let me hit execute, right? So this time the table is sorted in descending order, right? So over here at the top, we have the maximum salary, which is 159,000. And at the bottom, we have the lowest salary, which is 73,000. Now let's look at the top clause. The top clause is used to fetch the top n records from a table. So top clause is useful on large tables with thousands of records. And this is the syntax. We've got the select keyword first, then we type in top, and then the number of records we want to see in our result, followed by the column list. And then we use the from keyword and given the name of the table. So I'd want to see only the top 3 records from the entire employee table. So this would be the command for that. Select, and then I will use the top keyword. And since I want 3 records, the number would be 3. And since I want to see all of the columns, I will put in star over here. Then I want all of these records from the employee table. So this is the entire command. Select top 3 star from employee. I'll hit execute, right? So I've got the top 3 records from the table. Now I will use the top clause and the order by clause and fetch the 3 oldest employees of this company. So let me write the command for that. Select top 3 star. So I've used the top clause to fetch the top 3 records. Now this would be from the employee table, and then I will use the order by clause. So I want to order it with respect to the age of the employee, and I want it in descending order. That is, the employee who has the maximum age should be at the top. Now let me hit execute. So I've got 3 records over here, and the records are arranged in descending order of their age. So Sam has the highest age, 45, and Julia over here has the lowest age, 30, right? So Sam, Matt and Julia are the 3 senior most employees of this company. And this is how we can work with the order by clause and the top clause. The group by statement is used to get aggregate result with respect to a group. For example, let's say we wanted to find out the average salary with respect to gender. That is, average salary of male employees separately and average salary of female employees separately. This is where we can use group by to divide the data into 2 groups, male and female, and find out the average salary of each group separately. Now let's have a look at the syntax. So here you'd have to be careful of the sequence. So the group by clause follows the where clause and precedes the order by clause. So if you mix up the sequence, then you may not get the right result. And if you're not using the where clause and the order by clause, you can directly follow up the group by statement after the table name. So I would want the average salary with respect to the gender. So this would be the syntax for that. Select, and since I want average salary, I will use the AVG aggregate function and then given the name of the column, which would be E salary. And since I also want to see the gender column, I will give in E gender over here. And this is from the employee table. And since I have already given the name of the table, I can use the group by statement over here. And after the group by statement, I need to give in the column with respect to which I have to group the data. And I want to group the data with respect to the gender column. So this would be my total command. Select average of E salary and E gender from employee, group by E gender. So let me hit execute, right? So this is the average salary with respect to the female employees, and this is the average salary with respect to the male employees. So the average salary of female employees is around $99,000 per annum, and the average salary of male employees is around $111,000 per annum. Now I want the average age with respect to the department, and I'll also use the order by keyword to sort the data in descending order with respect to the average age. So this is the syntax. Select. Since I want the average age, I will use the average aggregate function and then pass in the column, which would be E age. And I would also want to have a glance at the department. So E DEPT. I will give in the name of the table, which would be employee. After which I will give in the group by statement, and I want to group this with respect to the department. So group by EDEPT. And after the group by statement, I need to give the order by statement. So order by, and I want to order the result with respect to the average age. So again, this would be average age, and I want the sorting to be in descending order. So DESC. So this is a total command. Select average, E age and E department. So I'll be getting the average age and the department column from the employee table, and I'm grouping it with respect to the department column, and I'm sorting it in descending order of the age. So this would be E age over here. So let me hit execute. So we have the average age with respect to each department ordered in descending order. So operations department has the maximum average age of 36. Then sales has an average age of 33. Analytics department has an average age of 27, and support has the youngest staff of age 21. And this is how we can use a group by clause. So the having clause is used in conjunction with the group by statement to impose certain conditions on the groups which are to be displayed. So the having clause was added to SQL because the where keyword could not be used with aggregate functions. For example, over here we have 4 departments A, B, C and D. And we also have the corresponding average salary of the employees belonging to each department. Now let's say we wanted to see only those departments where the average salary is greater than $100,000. So this is where having clause can be used to impose the condition and get only those departments where the average salary is greater than $100,000. And this is the syntax for the having clause. Here you need to keep in mind that the having clause must follow the group by clause and must also precede the order by clause if used. So let's go to SQL Server and implement the having clause. So we'll group this table with respect to the department column and then use the having clause to display only those departments where the average salary is greater than $100,000. So let me go ahead and write the syntax for that. I will type in the select keyword and then list down all of the columns which I want from this employee table. So I need the department column. I would also need the average salary. So I'll use the aggregate function AVG and then pass in the column which is E salary. And I will name this column as average salary. Now I would want this from the employee table. So I'll use the from keyword and then give the name of the table which is employee. After this I'll give the group by keyword to group this table with respect to the department column. So I will give in the name of the column which is EDEPT. Now before I go ahead and use the having clause, let me actually execute just these 3 lines of code. Right. So what I've basically done is I have grouped this employee table with respect to the department column, and we have the average salary with respect to each of these departments. Right. So this is the average salary of analytics department, average salary of operations department, and average salary of sales and support. Now I will use the having clause to display only those records where the average salary is greater than $100,000. So the average salary needs to be greater than $100,000. Now I'll select all of this, I'll hit execute. Right, so we see that out of the 4 departments, only operations and sales department have the average salary of the employees to be greater than $100,000. So the average salary of employees in operations department is $103,000 and the average salary in the sales department is $159,000. This is how we can work with the having clause in SQL.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides online SQL training in partnership with Microsoft. The course link of which is given in the description below.
Okay guys, we've come to the end of this session. I hope this session was helpful and informative for you. If you have any queries, leave a comment down below.